Welcome to another episode of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Dragon Hoist, Dragon Heist, whatever you want to call it.
Where our DM is a level 12 paladin, whereas everyone else is level 3.
He's definitely not a geek.
Yeah, that's right. All right. I gotta wear the thematic gear. So let's start with some introductions, and then we'll do a brief recap. I'm Valen, the Dungeon Master, Game Master, whatever you want to call it, the guy who runs the game and tells everybody what they can and cannot do accordingly. But otherwise,
You'd like to think that.
Off the building.
yeah,
No,
yeah,
definitely
sure you
not.
can. No, you can't. Just like that.
I'll take you with me.
And then we will start on the top left corner this time, and we'll start with Kashka.
Oh crap. Hi. I'm playing Grifola, a deep gnome warlock who just got second level spell. May or may not be invisibility.
And then we have next to Kashka, Lissa and Mr. Monkey.
I am playing. Who am I playing this week? I am playing Nache Cloudbane. I am a. Make everything too big. I am playing a Azamar Vengeance Paladin. Blah blah blah. And this is her furry companion, Smoke.
Yes. I like to steal stuff and stab stuff.
And you're playing what?
Roxy. Key cat.
Tabaxi Rogue for those that don't speak, half sentence.
It's like a cat-human hybrid, but very tall.
Yeah, biggest cat you'll ever know.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not talking about
And
that.
chaotic. Completely chaotic.
No, that's just you. All right, and then next to them we have Robin.
The most common person. What? It's the human rogue. Oh,
Yeah.
ranger, not rogue. Ranger. Sorry.
You're a human
I'm
with
confused.
dark vision. That's not normal. You need to get your eyes
It's called
checked.
Charisma.
So, and
Just remember, don't send Fern to do any talking alone.
this has come up many times, actually. Funny you should say that. So
Every time that ended up nicely. I mean, I pulled a moment of double job, and I still have yet to return that.
Instead, he used his money to go get the Vin Diesel special on his eye.
Oh, the Vin Diesel special.
Monumental cools for shine job.
Oh god.
It's so good.
He's no good with daggers, though. Anyway, let's get people caught up with where we left off last time. The entire party had just been killed. And,
I think you actually meant to say we just pwned Waterdeep. The entire party pwned
I think
Waterdeep.
Waterdeep was poning you. So
Whatever.
you guys had finished up with some of your little questies going on with some of your factions that you were making all friendly with. And you pretty much worked with the barmaid that was pretty much on loan to you guys from the Zentarum, who's been feeding you guys and taking care of you guys in the manor. Working with her, as well as Volo, and perhaps even Raynor, have been all working to get your manor house up and running. Kind of fast forwarded a couple weeks. You guys had to stay outside of it. You were given some accommodation at the Yawning Portal via the Zentarum, who seem to really like you guys so far. You've been very effective for them, to say the least.
Super effective.
Yeah, one might say that too. So, excuse me. You guys then were on your way back to Trollskull Manor itself after not really being at it for some time. I mean, you guys have been supervising, visiting, checking out in with all the repairs that were going on and everything. And as of this morning, the place was safe to go into because the last of the paint and everything and plaster and whatnot should have dried, finished drying late last night, if not overnight. And you guys were kind of getting like this whole grand opening for yourselves, at least, of the manor house. And then you were hopefully, presumably, going to be giving your new employees some direction as to when the place might be opening, when they would be starting, and so on. But as it happens, just as you were coming around the corner to Troll Skull Manor, actually, let's click over here. Grifola caught a glimpse of a gnome in the crowd that was out there. You guys were pretty much out. It was in the morning, but it was still very crowded. Lots of people out on the street. When I think I've got, yeah, let's show this. Mass hysteria happened.
Boom.
A fireball went off in the street. Maybe not quite as close to a building as what they're showing there, but it did do some damage in the area. It was a huge rattle. The force of it, because of how close everything was, actually knocked a large amount of people off their feet, including pretty much everybody in the party. You were all caught unaware, and it happened almost exactly in the spot where this gnome that Grifola saw was standing. And you guys were pretty much just like, it happened so fast, just boom. And then it's like Saving Private Ryan moment here, right? Like sound is like gone for a moment. You just have this ringing. There's just like people, blurs moving, double vision, and you start hearing some muffled sounds as your hearing starts to come back slightly. You know, people screaming. There's fire, and you look as you guys are waking up. You're all kind of like either knocked off your feet completely or on all fours, just kind of like shaking this away. And you see that there are a lot of dead people, or pretty sure that they are dead. Some of them are not entirely in full parts from this explosion that happened. But it looks like there's a good amount of people down. And the crowd pretty much dispersed as much as it could, not just from the blast. But then there was lots of crying and people like freaking out and everything. So you guys are just waking up, if you like blacked out at all from the fall down. And Grifola, you get this glimpse of what you saw just before this. Oh yes, I just saw Dalakar. It was him. I'm sure it was him. It's the same face, just a different color, because he, as your past recalled, he had been transformed into a surface gnome as, punishment, and sent to the surface in exile from the deep dark. So that's all you remember. You saw him for a moment. He was running towards you. He had recognition in his eye. And then explosion.
So wait, so I do see him again, or I don't see him
You
again?
did see him. There are a lot of bodies laying around at this point.
So I don't see him now?
Would you like to make a perception check?
No, I would like to just know if I see him or not. Because perception checks are me, not best buds.
You guys, basically, some of the first sounds you hear are people calling for city guards and the watch and stuff. People are saying, "Go and get the city watch, get the guards," you know, and other people are yelling for like medical help and stuff like that. So,
one question.
Yes.
Did we ever report back about the whole, dragon thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Dragon thing.
Yeah, because we were told that the dragon left the next day.
Oh, right. The bronze dragon. You guys, I believe. Yep. You guys you finished doing that, and then you ended up pretty much chilling at the owning portal or wandering around town and working with the repairs on Troll Skull Manor for the next couple of weeks. Or at least like a little bit more than a 10-day, as weeks here are 10 days. I don't know why they need to change that, and the money as well, but hey, it's a thing.
Trying to immerse you in a different culture.
So actually, I would like all of you to make a perception check as you're starting to get up. Recover your wits.
That implies I have some to begin with.
Okay.
I had the least amount.
What's that?
I said I had the least amount.
Right. And Raven, what you notice obviously is the general mayhem and chaos that I described. But you also notice there's a lot of glass on the ground. A lot of glass. Oh, the windows in the manor. They all got shattered.
Motherfucker.
As well as every house in the area.
They went brand new.
Screaming, our manor.
Everybody else pretty much notices the same thing. But I would say, Kashka, you're looking from you being on all fours right now. You don't see him. You worry that one of the corpses on the ground that may be a light or whatnot could be him.
Okay, I get up and I'm running over there.
Okay. Who was the last 20?
That would have been Monkey, I believe.
Huh? Sorry?
Who rolled the 20 for perception?
That was me.
Okay. Natea, excuse me, you got a glimpse of a lot of people basically running out of the area, not in any kind of suspicious manner, just like people running to go get help. And they were, calling for the watch and guards and stuff like that. Kashka, you get up and start looking through the bodies, excuse me, and inspecting the area there. There's
I'm looking around for Smoke and everybody else.
You guys are you see each other as well. I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry. You all seem intact, though a little bit covered with some glass from the windows that were all blown out in this area. But otherwise, everybody seems okay. Just like you knocked over and perhaps the wind knocked out of you for a moment. So, Kashka, you said that you were getting up and running around looking?
Yep.
Okay. Let me see if I can find the list of... No, it's not on that one. I have so many notes here, so you'll have to forgive me for a moment as I pan through the notes.
While you're doing that, I'm just going to start looking around, checking people and trying to figure out if I can see where this came from.
There are a lot of injured people. Just as a heads up, there are people crying. There's at least a woman and child over on one side. The child is bleeding from the head. The woman seems to have one of her arms held limply and profusely bleeding, leaving a trail as she's walking. There are a lot of people down on the ground that look like they may be either partially on fire and are pretty much dead, or should be, hopefully, in that current condition.
I'll be dispensing some mercy.
I see. By giving out candy?
No.
It's kind of the new name for stabbing people.
Maybe. Maybe.
Yes, it is.
Dang it, it's not in that one. Hold on one second.
You're not going to make it. Stab.
Okay.
I was hoping you're going with the one hit and supposed to,
So,
oh, you're not dead yet. Like, try again. Oh, you're still not dead. Try again.
Kashka, you see about 5 human-size bodies that are not moving, as well as 5 half-size bodies that are not moving in the wreckage. Looks like some of the smaller folk are halflings, and one of them is currently burning. You cannot see anything about them at this point, short of the fact that they are small, cloaked, and that cloak is on fire.
So I'm basically like calling out as I'm like, and I'm just kind of going quickly from person to person. And I'm just calling out like Dalakar. I'll like look up, like look around, call out Dalakar, and then like go to the nearest person and check if they're alive quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if I find that they're alive,
pretty much anybody
I
that
don't know.
seems to be alive that you've
What
come
would I do?
across so far is, they've distanced themselves from the blast. Those that you have come across that don't seem to be living are pretty much bodies on the ground. You found at least 2 female halflings, and like a flute and a fiddle next to them, with a couple of male halflings nearby to them. In fact, you might even recall that they were like performers, and there were 2 of them were dancing to the music just before this as well. Like you're getting this flashback of what was going on. And then the last one is a gnome who's face down, currently burning.
Okay, turn him over quick. I'm trying to put I take like take my coat, and I'm like, I just pull it off really quick, and I'm like putting it over him, over them, patting the fire out, and trying to carefully kind of turn them.
Okay. It is Dalakar. And it is what you recall him last looking like when you saw him before his exile. He is not breathing. He is in horrible shape. Half of his body is like 3rd degree burns. You were able to put him out. It was pretty much just what left was burning on him was his the cloak itself, and a large portion of it was his backside. So he's missing a lot of the hair on the back of his scalp, because that was just completely singed off. And if he was wearing some kind of hat before, it's pretty much just mostly gone or turned to ash at this point. He does not seem to be alive.
Can I do a medicine check to see if he is or not for sure?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. It's actually not difficult to tell. He's dead.
Okay. I just kind of, if I was like bending over, like over this body, like patting it down, I just kind of slump to the ground and just sit like on the ground, like just kind of in a bit of like mental shock.
Excuse me. Make a perception check. Excuse me.
Damn it. These are the bane of my existence.
I think everyone's, because, it's their most used role.
That's not too bad, actually.
So while you're sitting there in your shock, that the person that you came here originally looking for, who summoned you, and you feel some kind of destiny regarding, your defeat is laying here before you, and your friend and relative, and you're just sitting there in disbelief, feeling the whatever feelings you have for it. And you start noticing little details. You're looking at him, and you see he stepped in some poop. And then you're like, he didn't just step in poop, he's been wading in it.
He's been in the sewers.
And you see your normal instincts are, he's got a pouch that seems intact. Does he have anything else on him? You start you start looking him over, thinking,
And I also, as I start like noticing these details, I just I'm going through his pockets, and I'm grabbing like all of the possible bits of like evidence and clues. I'm just emptying his pockets completely.
People are starting to actually come back around and are looking to see if there are any survivors from the blast. Are you trying to do this discreetly?
Sure, I will try that.
Okay. Then I need you to make a
Sleight of hand.
yes, sleight of hand.
Nope. I'm too distraught.
No worries, no worries. So you go through his pockets, pouch, everything like that. You end up realizing that maybe I just take the pouch, and you have the pouch. You think that somebody saw you take it, but they didn't stop you or anything like that. It looks like it was just like one of the people over there. You're pretty sure that you saw the person that saw you do that because you were trying to look around while doing it.
Who is this person?
It's just some like younger male off on the side who was trying to help somebody up onto a bench.
Okay.
It's just that you saw, like, they gave you a distinct look, like, what is that person looting the bodies? You know, type thing.
If he's looking at me in disgust or something like that, I kind of yell at him, "This is my cousin!"
And he just kind of keeps tending to the other person. Excuse me. What are the rest of you doing while Griffola is looting the bodies?
I haven't got to more than one yet. Just saying.
I know.
Give me a minute.
Helping around 10 people.
Okay. Are you using some of your medical supplies?
Yes.
You have become a very helpful person. I will come back to that in a moment. What about you, Lissa and Mr. Monkey?
Well, like I said, I'm handing out some mercy and probably collect a small fee.
You'll have to be a little more specific. And nobody is like moments from death. They're all just either badly injured or dead. Or they're perfectly fine.
They're perfectly fine. He has to hand out mercy.
If they look like they've got a pouch full of gold, maybe. The mercy is really
good in a moment. Yeah, no, if they are definitely suffering or on the brink of death, then I'll end that suffering for them and then, see if they have something shiny.
There doesn't seem to be anybody in that state. Like I said, they're either dead or just badly injured and are being tended to.
Okay, I'm pretty much wandering around doing nothing.
Okay. What about you, Natea?
I'm gonna go over where see if I can find Griffola and go see what's going on.
Okay. So as you're approaching Griffola, you can see that she's visibly upset, but she's also checking over a corpse of a gnome right now. So as you shout out, "That's my cousin!" Natea walks up and walks right up to you at that point. So you've been seen by 2 people now.
Hey, Griffola, is that your cousin?
3.
Yep, I'm just dumping. So I've got his pouch. I'm now dumping out his pockets.
Yeah, that's all you're able to come away with anything of any value or use. So you did find that he had a small dagger on his side.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I guess I would go through his pockets just to make sure that he doesn't have anything that's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Like evidence of where he's been.
Okay. And it is a very small pouch, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, so I pocket that pouch then and take the dagger. And I guess I would do if there's kind of any particular pose that deep gnomes favor for their dead, then I would do that. So maybe I take a couple of pebbles and put them over his eyes or something.
If that's what you think they would do, then
Sure.
that is perfect.
Sure. I mean, they're underground folk, right?
Okay. So, you put some small stones across his eyes.
And then I cross his hands across his chest.
Okay. All right. And let's see. Gonna go to Vern. So you, sir, are kind of like the medic on site at this point. There doesn't seem to be anybody with any kind of medical training except you, and you're the woman whose arm was mostly destroyed. You're able to at least stop her bleeding. Her son seems to more or less caught a piece of shrapnel or something, like skinned the edge of his head, but he seems all right. Just like a little Tizamir flesh wound, if you will. It looks like everybody else is pretty much just shaken, and everyone's kind of gathering in a circle around them. People are inspecting the dead bodies just to see if they're dead or alive or whatnot. And you overhear somebody say, the guards should be here within a minute or two. I sent so-and-so to go and get them. Random name here. So you now know that before any guards show up, you probably have a couple minutes at best. If there's anything else you guys wanted to do.
No, just get closer to this area where this maybe I guess there's a crater there.
There is definitely a lot of missing. Yeah, there is somewhat of a crater. There's a lot of missing cobblestone, and most of it is just kind of like blasted out to the sides. Some of it actually impacted on some of the walls, but didn't really do much damage on the buildings or anything, short of all the windows being blasted out.
Now, whenever the little glass bead came out, was I able to see which direction it came from?
Say again?
Did I see where the glass bead came from that caused the explosion?
Make an intelligence check. You're not entirely sure, but you think it might have come from above?
Those damn griffins. Just dropping their fireballs.
Alright. Well, that won't do me much good. I can't start searching around for whoever threw the bead if I only have a bug.
You can make a perception check. See if anybody's still there, that if there was somebody up there. Nice. You start climbing some of the lamp posts and getting on top of stuff, and you're looking around, and you are pretty darn sure that there's nobody around, at least anymore, that could have thrown that or cast it or who knows what placed it.
Excellent. So the sniper's gone.
I'll just kneel down to Griffola and I'll ask her. We knew she was looking for her cousin or family member, right?
Yes.
When we caught up with, and I asked her, "Is this who you've been looking for?"
Yes. Although, she's trying to say stuff, but she says, I was a fool. I should have looked for him sooner. I got so distracted by running around and having fun in this city that I never tried to find him. I was a fool.
Was he missing, or was he?
Well, he wasn't really missing, but he did kind of send for me, and I never made an effort to seek him out once I got here.
Any clue? I guess not. You wouldn't know why this, I pointed at the crater, you wouldn't know why this would have occurred as soon as you found him, would you?
No, and I think it's maybe more he found me, or we came across each other by accident.
At that moment, you hear, "Oh my God, you're all okay!" Bonnie comes out of the manor house and rushes up to the two of you that are basically in the blast area talking. Actually, the three of you, since I think Smoke might be wandering around in that area a little bit too, hoping that somebody needs some killing.
Yeah.
And she comes out
some
and
candy. I think you'll find that's candy.
What's that?
Candy. That somebody needs some candy.
Somebody needs some candy. So
That's why I need one of my daggers.
You're like Major Pain. The movie, not you're actually a Major Pain. So as she comes down to you two, because I'm assuming that Taya kind of almost took a knee to talk to Griffola, who was on the ground in the process. She kind of came down to give you two kind of a hug, and then she bursts out and says, "No!" And she's looking over at the halflings. And she says, "They were supposed to meet us here today. They were some of the employees."
All right, now I'm really pissed.
And she calls out the names of each of them. Apparently the two male halflings that were dancers, and the two that were playing the flute and the fiddle. They were more than willing to either be performance artists at the manor house, or work the bar, or food as needed. They had some skill with both. So
well, damn.
GM always ruins our fun.
Shit, Bonnie. I don't know what to say.
Well, she's visibly upset by just the entire thing, and she's still just she's what happened?
We don't know. We're not sure. There was a huge explosion, and well, as you see, this is what the aftermath. We have no. And I look down and kind of look at the dead little gnome, and I'm like, that's Grifola's cousin she's been looking for.
And she says, "It's just not fair. People just come from places and they just want to live. It's just not fair." And she goes, "Who even are the rest of them?" And she just starts kind of posing the halflings in a similar way to how Griffola did, so that they're looking a little more at peace than their splayed out bodies are.
I mean, would I recognize what happened as a fireball?
Make an Arcana check. Why, yes. It was either a fireball or a delayed blast fireball.
Okay.
Either way, it was very large and destructive. So, you start hearing off in the distance, some of the guards are starting to arrive, basically.
I leave. I'm getting up and I'm walking away as soon as the guards kind of...
Right. The city guards. And they start cordoning off the area, preventing people from leaving. They're blocking off all the streets and everything like that in kind of a perimeter. A few people are coming up and they're just like, don't mess with that. And they're kind of shooing people away from the crime scene as it is. And they don't seem to be taking any action short of just setting up a perimeter. And
is the manor within the perimeter?
Yes, actually, it is more or less right in the center of it. They're setting up a very wide perimeter. So to give an idea, if you look at the map, to the west of where you guys are, they're setting up a perimeter probably about down here. More or less like, if I were to draw a line, cutting off the street and any alleyways in about that much of a distance at least, just to start asking questions, it would appear. They're saying people don't need to go people need to stay here. The watch is on the way. There will be questions, and people need to be interviewed. Bless you. And that seems to be the word that they're spreading. Everybody stay calm, and there's a few of them that are trying to help those that are injured, asking if they're all right. Vern, you probably get taken over by some of the guards. Thank you actually quite a bit for the aid that you were able to give to those that were injured. And you guys pretty much hear that the watch is expected to show up momentarily, and that everybody just needs to, if they live within the perimeter, go back into your homes. We'll come to you one by one. Anybody that doesn't live in the perimeter currently needs to stay out here, and we need to start doing interviews. So they're kind of rounding everybody up more or less. And you guys are this is they've got a shouter person standing up on a crate or something like that is currently saying this to all the people out in the area. And everybody seems to be pretty much voluntarily wanting to help as best they can, because this is more or less unheard of in this area. Any kind of fire blast going off, but they all just want to get done with it and go back to their homes or tend to whatever needs tending to. So anything? Oh, go ahead.
I was going to see the explosion. Can I tell if it was directional, or is it just look like a straight down crater?
Make an investigation check. You're not really sure. You can't say that you really inspected a fireball blast before, but it looks pretty evenly spherical, so probably straight down.
Yeah, so that doesn't give me a direction to go look up above.
I'm going to retreat inside the manor and check the pouch that was on Dalakar.
Okay. Let's see. In the pouch, and if any of you want to retire to the manor house, you can. The inside is pretty much covered with a lot of glass, but otherwise it's fully intact. The small pouch has 5 small gemstones in it.
I want to go up into our big tower thing and look around.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Just drop your character in there when you want to there. And go ahead and make a perception check with advantage. Okay, it looks like you can see off in the distance that there are some official peoples coming way down the street on their way here, but due to the gatherings of the crowds on the outskirts, they're having a little bit of a time to try and get through, but people are parting ways as they approach. Let's see here. Oh, that was the wrong one. This one. So, and actually something else, and you all probably noticed this, it's fairly obvious. Griffin Rider seems to be circling as well above the area, just kind of circling the perimeter. There's a lot of guards. There's at least 6 at every entryway, plus there's like another couple dozen within the perimeter that are just trying to organize people and get them, squared away and stuff.
I'm just gonna stand right outside the entrance of our area of our manor and just kind of sit on the step. And
Okay. And what about Vern and Griffola? What are you guys going to be doing?
Inside, sitting at one of the tables.
Okay.
First I cast detect magic on the pouch and the gemstones.
It is not magical.
Okay. And then I'd kind of like to do a sweep of, like, go stand at like the front window or something like that, or where the front window used to be, like kind of like, and look out this door or this side of the building. Maybe I can stand like the corner here and do a sweep of this area with detect magic as well.
Okay. Nothing really, you don't notice anything sticking out there. But the rest of you are just kind of waiting inside?
Yeah, I'm staying inside.
Okay.
I'm still scanning around.
You're still looking outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm right outside the door, like on the step, and just looking around.
Where you're at now?
And I holler down to Natea about the officials.
Okay. And you guys start seeing that the City Watch has arrived, and there's a few members, but they're also being escorted by another group of guards. He starts. They make their way in, and they start talking with a lot of the people. Basically, just guy says, He actually, one of them stands, comes up and talks to some of the guards briefly, and then he comes out and does a quick shout out and saying to those that are currently out in the street waiting that he's Barnabas Blastwind. He's part of the Watchful Order of Magists and Protectors, and he is here to conduct interviews. Once complete, he'll send each person back to their homes. Please remain calm and orderly, and so on. And he starts interviewing people, and it's actually not too far from Troll Skull Manor that he's doing the interviews. And he starts just talking to random people in the street and so on. He's obviously trying to talk to those that were mostly injured first, so that they can seek further medical attention. And he seems to have a cohort that he's working with as well, perhaps another ranking officer that is accompanying him. And they start questioning people. Then once they get through pretty much the group that's out there, if you guys want to make a perception check to check that out, you're more than welcome to. Those that are like listening or whatnot. Okay.
Sure, why not?
Okay. It would appear, I think Mr. Is that Mr. Monkey there?
Yeah, I'm the first one. She's the second one.
Oh, okay. So then Natea, being pretty much practically out on the street, has a really good hearing of a bunch of it. And you can actually hear Barnabas Blastwind talking to his cohort, who you are able to actually get the name of the guy. It's Sergeant Saith Crumley, and they are discussing pretty much the things that they're trying to figure out after they've pretty much finished interviewing the people that were just lined up out there. They've more or less cleared the entire area, short of those people that are like maybe in their houses, which they've started like knocking on a couple house doors. But so far, what you're able to glean from them is that somebody spotted that a gnome was running from armed pursuers. Then there was also somebody has a relative in amongst the victims, because they were shouting at somebody. And somebody was spotted stealing something from a corpse.
God damn it. Crying out loud.
There was one other thing, is that it was determined that as far as the onlookers could tell, the gnome nor his pursuers saw the blast coming.
So it probably came from behind them.
Maybe. But that's what that is all what Natea hears in her eavesdroppings. The rest of you can hear them talking, but you're only catching occasional words.
All right. Kind of back up to the door if it's open. Where's Griffola?
She's just through the window. You could like reach over and grab her if you want.
Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of go where she is. I'm gonna let Griffola stay inside and kind of stay hidden. People are there's a bunch of crap. People saw you, what they thought you were stealing from your cousin, but just kind of lay low for a little bit.
Yeah, Griffola kind of lets out this big sigh. And is Bonnie inside or outside, or?
Bonnie has since come inside, and she's pretty much just been trying to sweep up the mess that is the floor.
I say, Bonnie, do we have any cake?
And she says, I think I've got something saved up.
Let's go eat some cake, Bonnie.
And she says, hold on a second. And she walks over to the counter, and she reaches down behind it, and she pulls it up, and there's this really big, massive cake. And it actually says on the top of the cake, in like icing, welcome home. And she sets it up on the counter. And she says, it was supposed to be a celebration.
I say, fuck, Barney, Jesus. And I just like reach out like and just take like a big handful of cake and just
and Bonnie kind of like gives you like a little bit of a sideways hug, and does exactly the same thing that you do. And meanwhile, she's
bonding
like,
with Bonnie over cake.
She's like choking back tears at the same
yeah,
time.
me too,
you know?
me too.
Yeah.
Griffola never cries. Damn it.
All right, so a bunch of the guards are starting to move some of the bodies a bit. I need Mr. Monkey to make a perception check with advantage. Excuse me. All right. From your vantage point, sir, and the fact that the bodies are being moved around, you realize, hey, one of those bodies has one of them tattoos I've been seeing of that flying snake thing.
Maybe I should follow that body.
Entirely up to you. But they just seem to be cleaning up the bodies, so they're not just laying sprawled out. Right now they're all kind of like lining them up. Taking account of everything that they have, you know, who they might be and stuff like that. It just all their belongings and whatnot. So let's keep this over here as well. Okay, there we go. That's the wrong thing I need to open. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, sorry. So, eventually, the watch continues knocking on doors and interviewing different people. They actually start moving towards Trollskull Manor, and Barnabas and Saith come to what they were going to head towards the front door, but they see that you guys are pretty much just kind of standing at this broken window, and Natea is kind of like leaning on the outside there. So they approach, and introduces himself. Let's see if I can actually get... I do have a handout. Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah, I am gonna go look at that body.
I see the guy approaching, and I kind of knock on the window. I'm like, "Heads up, we got company."
This is the. I think I just gave you guys the handout. That is Barnabas, and I don't think. Wait, does saith Cromley? There we go. Yep. Which there we go. Show to you guys saith. And these two characters come up to you guys and pretty much, let's hide that stuff. There we go. They pretty much start talking to you about, who are you? Do you live here? And so on. And Smoke, as you're starting to come downstairs, you notice that they're pretty much out at the corner where Natea is. Are you trying to stealth past them? Because there's a lot of guards around these bodies right now. We're talking.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be sneaky.
You're gonna try sneaking. All right, give me that sneaky roll. Okay. So you're like, okay, I'm just gonna go this way, and as you're like, there's so many out that way. I'm gonna open this door here and go this way instead. You open the door, and you actually knock into a guard that is standing at your door. And he says, no, please stay in the building. And he just kind of gently pushes the door closed.
All right, I'm gonna find another way around.
So it's actually, normally it would be a little more challenging, but as there are no windows left in the building, there are a plethora of exits now.
Exits are here. Everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. So there are probably about a dozen guards currently like organizing the bodies right now, out in the middle of the street, like here, if that helps any. Right out in front of the manor house.
Is it the front or is it the front?
That is the front where Natea is, where you are as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the only reason I'm saying that is because it's facing what I'm considering the main street. Even though the tavern itself entrance is over here, you guys go into the above there.
I forget where the kitchen is. That's what I mean.
Kitchen is pretty much where T1 is. Or sorry, you don't see T1. Pretty much Vern is just on the edge of
Kitchen
it.
Should be over that direction.
Something like that. I can't remember.
All right, don't worry. I'll find it. Yeah.
But Barnabas, Blastwind, and saith Cromley start approaching Natea. And Barnabas is saying, I'm Barnabas Blastwind of the Watchful Order of Magus and Protectors. I'm here to take your report on the event that just happened outside. Is this your manor house?
Yes, this is mine.
What kind of details can you share with me?
Probably the same as everybody else. We saw a blast, windows broke, boom, explosion, dead people screaming, crazy, panic.
Saith speaks up at this point. Where were you at the time of the explosion? And he's got a little notepad, as you see there. He's writing things down.
Standing right, like basically not too far from where I'm standing.
And he says, and what are your names and how many residents are in this house?
I'm Natea. We have three other people in here. And
is it two or three? He seems very particular at this point. And I need their names, please.
We have 2.5. Does that work?
And Barnabas says, I realize that this is a difficult situation. We're just trying to get this done as quickly as possible so that everyone can go about their business.
Don't mention the gnome.
We have
secret gnome.
We have a barmaid named Bonnie. Then there's another guy named Vern, and we have a cat named Smoke. And they are 4 of us in this manor.
So, Grifola, what are you doing?
Right now, I'm kind of sitting on the floor in the pantry area with with Bonnie just like sitting with my back up against one of the walls, eating cake by the handful. Just kind of like crying into the cake. This day sucks.
I know you hate doing it, but I need you to make a perception check.
Bleh.
Sorry. Okay. You
It's the second time
actually
I've rolled that today.
you hear, because there's no windows at this point, you can hear a little bit of the conversation that's being said out front, and how you're left off the list of residents.
First I get all huffy. What the hell? And then I go, oh shit. And kind of climb. There's the hatch to the basement just outside the pantry.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be like, Bonnie, save some cake for me. And I just kind of like stealthily climb through the hatch down into the cellar.
Okay, and Bunny actually helps you.
Okay.
So make a stealth roll with advantage.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thanks for the advantage. Come on, big bucks, no whammies.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty good.
That's alright.
You got advantage.
Oh, that's right.
I'm like, how's 23 not good?
Hey.
You felt like that was pretty quiet. And in fact, because Bonnie was the one that was moving the door, she did it without making any squeaky noises, like you probably would have. She's been up and down that thing a lot of times. So, Mr. Smoke on the horizon. You figure, you know what, my best bet is to try and go out second floor window onto the neighbor's house on the east side and try and ease my way down from there. So I need you to make a stealth check. All right, and I need you to make a dexterity check.
Acrobatics.
So you're outside. You feel like you're being pretty stealthy. You're not sure if you've been spotted, but nobody's raised any alarms or said anything. You're on the neighbor's house now. Do you want to go towards the front street or towards the back of the house? Or over the roof? I don't know what you want to do. Basically, you're pretty much right here. Let me drag your character. There you are.
All right.
On the
Probably
roof.
go the. Well, I know that there's guards off to the side, so probably drop down at the front. Try to blend into the crowd a bit.
There's not much of a crowd left at all. It's almost all guards at this point that's out front and bodies. Because they've pretty much cleared the street and kept people from coming in, and everybody that they've interviewed, they more or less pushed on or are talking to in the individual houses. Did you still want to do that?
Yeah, since there's really no one around.
Okay. All right. So you drop down into the street and don't have any real problem with it. You're familiar with the territory, so to speak. So you are now there. There are 2 guards currently inspecting bodies, and it looks like they're taking notes in little books for it. There's about 4 guards surrounding the bodies right now, and a couple others are kind of marking areas and distances of the blast and everything like that. Kind of like going full on CSI, you know.
CSI Waterdeep.
Yes.
Dum, dum, dum. Yes.
Where's that Law and Order? I don't know.
That's Law and Order. But, you know, potato,
Whatever.
potato.
Or I'll take off my sunglasses.
David Caruso style.
Ow! So what
Yes,
do you
exactly.
what do you plan on doing?
Well, so try to stay out of their point of view. Get closer to that body, see if I can see a pouch or something. And also see if they can tell me a direction that the blast came from.
Ah, okay. So you just want to get as close as you can, eavesdrop and spy, yes?
Yes, and if I see something interesting on that body, I may snap.
Okay. From the where you're at right now is probably the safest vantage point that you could be, short of in this doorway, but you're not even sure if you'd be able to remain hidden in that doorway. You feel that where you're at right now is pretty close to being the best spot without being seen. Otherwise, you're walking out into the middle of the street. What you are able to ascertain will depend upon your perception check, sir. Make that sniff check.
There's so many rolls tonight.
There
It's
are
insane.
too many of those. Okay.
You hate me, woman.
It's okay. You still do see stuff. It's not like you just fall on your eyes or something. All right. So you do see two elderly female humans, and this is amongst the bodies. You see two elderly female humans, two cloaked male humans. One of which is the one that you spotted from above that had the mark on the neck. A male gnome. Two female halflings, two male halflings, and I believe... Oh, and one male half-elf dressed in plain clothes. The two female humans were also dressed in plain clothes. And the two male humans were actually wearing leather armor and seemed to have some weapons on them.
I wonder if those were the ones that were in pursuit.
Maybe.
Do they have any markings or pouches or anything that I can see that may be interesting?
The most that you see was that there is a mostly singed flute and fiddle sitting down on the side with a couple of short swords that are also on the side.
And the guy with the tattoo, I don't see anything interesting on him.
Just the pretty much ruined leather armor. An empty scabbard. Well, obviously one of the short swords went into that. It appears that any belongings of note they may have put in that pile, and it doesn't look like a very interesting pile.
Okay. So, have the CSI people determined the blast pattern?
It looks like they're working it through. They're typing in some numbers and stuff.
They're typing in.
Are they hanging up some strings and whatnot?
They've got their little jelly dummy that they're like shooting with guns and stuff to test the pattern.
Put in laser sticks and whatnot.
All right, so they're pretty much just like documenting just about everything. Some of them are using like some very simple magics, here and there to try and better illustrate things on paper. So instead of taking time to draw something, they're just like imprinting it with their magic on a paper. And then you've got back to Natea, which they're pretty much just taking account of what you guys saw, more or less. You walked around the corner, there was an explosion, people died, and they're trying to be as quick and efficient as possible with the whole thing, take as much and determine what's of interest, who's of interest, and so on. If you want to make an insight check, and Vern, are you there listening as well? Visible to them?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, why don't you make an insight check as well? All right, so you don't catch quite enough of the words, Vern, to ascertain what I'm about to tell Natea, but Natea did more or less feel that you guys are all kind of on the suspect list just because of your distance from the blast personally and residentially. You may have been either a target, you may have been involved in the cause of it. It's unsure at this point. He's obviously not, they're not pointing figures, but just the body language and stuff of it kind of makes you feel like that's what you're getting out of it.
I'll just mention to them, I'm like, look, we just moved into this little neighborhood and bought this place. I just repaired the windows, by the way, and then this happened. Why are your guards not keeping tabs on what's going on in the city?
And Barnabas says, well, actually, there was a major event going on the other side of the city. So there was a conveniently timed redistribution of guard activity. But that seems to have been completed and concluded in, sadly, not too long of time. And he actually looks very saddened by the fact that so many people were injured. He seems very, I don't know, honest and straightforward with what he says about things and how he feels towards things. Seems like a very gentle man, but very driven.
I'll just kind of look around and, kind of shuffle my foot a little bit. I'm like, said it, I hope you guys can figure out who did this, because I look around, I pointed all the dead bodies. I said, this isn't very good. Yeah. I said, and I mean, if I come up with more information or if I have any other tips for you, I'll definitely come to you so we can figure this out.
He says, and I recommend that if you have any of your neighbors have anything that they can share as well, it would greatly help if you learn anything new yourselves. We'll be trying to finish up here as quickly as possible, but we'll be here for at least another half hour to an hour as we try and clean up this area. And then once we're done, we'll probably be releasing the barricades on the area, and you're welcome to travel around the city as usual. Please don't leave the city. And
yeah, we'll be probably trying to board up my newly blown out window.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're up and running, you feel free to come back and have a drink.
Why, thank you very much. And he says, but not to worry about the city, or about the windows. As I understand it, due to the circumstances of this, the city will most likely end up compensating the area for appropriate repairs. We've already been in touch with the appropriate guilds to have arrangements made.
Oh, okay. That's greatly appreciated. And as for now, we're just going to kind of board them up a little bit, just in case.
He says, do as you will. And then him and Saith pretty much do like a little bow, and they start kind of like talking back and forth as they're walking away back towards the group of guards. At this point, Smoke, you can see that Natea's finished her conversation. They're walking out there, and seems Saith and Barnabas are having a very interesting conversation. Did you want to continue and try and eavesdrop?
Heck yeah, I do.
Okay, so at this point, their conversation is going to be difficult to listen in on because of the distance. So you can
try to listen myself as well.
Okay, so you can both make if you want to stay at a distance without raising any kind of attention to yourselves, you can do perception checks with disadvantage.
Well, I have her rolling for me, so that's
Okay. So you guys were able to hear some things, just not very much. Actually, I would say that Smoke, you did catch that they couldn't determine the direction of the blast, but they were able to determine the direction of the gnome and pursuers were heading towards Troll Skull Manor. As far as Natea, you were able to hear. Let's see, what kind of information were you able to hear? I think it was something about too many new variables, confounding equation, trust in the watch, and that seems to be about all you're able to catch out of it.
Yeah, I'll just kind of slowly kind of make my way in, and I'll look at Vern, and I'm like, hey, where's Griffola?
Vern?
I'm just shaking Vern. Where's Griffola?
Answer me, damn it!
I wouldn't pay attention to her.
I'll go back and I'm like, Bonnie, Bonnie?
And she says,
around.
yes. She's
I
right
get-
there, like in the kitchen, kind of cleaning herself off because she was eating cake and sobbing.
Okay. I'll look around. I'm like, hey, we're in a low voice. Where's Griffola?
And she just kind of like darts you one of those like where she like kind of looks down a little bit, and at the cellar door. Cellar door.
I'm like, okay, thanks, Bonnie. I just kind of walk over and pull the door up. Griffola, come here. You need to come out for a minute.
Griffola, were you doing any kind of specific hiding, or were you just in the cellar?
I was just in the cellar. I might have been like dozing off at this point.
Okay.
Just kind of like curl up on a wine casket or something.
Yeah, it's
like...
a fully stocked cellar at this point. So.
Oh, yeah, then I might be drinking to my cousin.
There you go.
So,
I'm just like whispering down, Griffola.
yeah, I clamber up.
I know, clamber back.
I'm like, you definitely need to lie low for a little bit. From what I could gather, they're gonna be. I have a feeling they're gonna be watching this place because from the guys talking when they were walking off, they know that your cousin was running this way, being pursued by people, of course, and he was running this way, but whoever threw that ball or whoever made this blast, even the people pursuing your cousin didn't even know. So we got some problems. If they know your cousin was coming this way and you're related and we're all together, then we may have some new friends coming to visit.
Hmm.
Did you know he was captured or possibly being held hostage or anything like that?
I'm trying to remember. Hang on one second. I want to see my notes.
Hold on, let me check my backstory.
Yeah. Day one stuff, right?
Right, it's been like so long.
I'm like, while you're doing that, I'm gonna turn. I'm like, Bonnie, we need to try to help. We're gonna try to start boarding up some of these windows. They're gonna send the city over once this area is released and open to have their guild people come and pay for repairs.
So Dalika, I don't think he said he needed my help, but it didn't seem like he was in danger. He said the note was like the note that I received from him was mostly missing. It said that he'd found a way, but he didn't say what he'd found a way to do, or if he was found a way to go somewhere, or I have no idea what he was talking about. The only thing he said was that he did need my help, but he didn't, sound like particularly frantic or anything like he was in danger.
We may need to find out where he lived and look around his place, but for now, we're stuck here because they have everything shut off. So if I were you, you can hang out in the cellar if you want, but just try not to come out where the windows are broken for now until we board them up.
Okay, I can do that.
And I told them that it was just me, Smoke, Vern, and Bonnie that lived here, so.
Okay. I have a new trick that will help with this. If we need to. But I'll stay in the cellar for a good long while, for sure. So
Don't drink all our profits.
She doesn't say anything. She just climbs right down. But I am going to study because that note was written on a scrap of map, wasn't it?
The cellar door closes by itself loudly. Bam!
that now is not the time. What's your name, ghosty person? God damn it.
I just kind of shrug. I'm like, this is not the time for this. Cliff. I'm just not gonna say nothing to Bonnie because she'll freak out. I'm gonna try to open the thing back up and say, "Don't say nothing to Bonnie."
Bonnie says, "Don't say what to me?" As she
Nothing.
pokes her head back out. She's like, "No, come on, don't keep me in the dark."
It's dark down here, I say from
you're gonna be stuck here for a little while, and you remember that little problem that we had that went away for a while.
And she gives you this curious look.
The spirit that lives here. She went on vacation.
Says
Back from her vacation.
Says, "Yes, actually, I wanted to tell you. It came back the other day. It's been nice."
Oh, has it?
Because we fixed the place up.
I mean, it was actually kind of... When I came in once and I set down my jacket one morning and I had I just brought some wood in, I noticed that it hung my jacket up for me. I wasn't expecting it. But it seems nice. It's done a few other small things so far, but...
Well, okay, as long as it's nice and happy, then it's back. Questions? I'm just kind of sure.
Said, "Yeah, just in time for us to make a really big mess of the place."
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm afraid of. But, let's just try to get this boarded up. Maybe she won't be as...
I would like to check out the scrap of map that the note from Dalakar is written on.
Mm-hmm.
And see if it corresponds with... Now that I've been around the city a bit, see if I can figure out where it is.
It's more or less the top left corner of the map in general. The overall.
Okay. All right, so it's
Waterdeep
kind of a bigger chunk.
It does have some scribbles, something about Gary in the top corner, but
God
otherwise,
damn it.
otherwise, it doesn't seem to have any significance. Like it was more used for something to write on.
Okay. Right.
Short of a location in general.
Okay.
It's been some time since you had it out, but at one point you had studied it very intricately and couldn't determine anything then.
Okay.
So, anything else you guys are doing before these guys clean up? Natea, I would like you to make a religion check. And I need to actually click back to see what that was. Okay. Comes to mind that if there was somebody that you wanted to question, the dead would have the answers.
So we're going to be talking to the dead in the second method. Well, second time.
Yep. Okay.
You recall people of certain religions speaking with the dead. I don't think that you have that ability. Okay.
I do.
Yeah, I know she's a paladin, but I don't know. There's so many different classes and things you can go with.
Considering that we also had that person who also, helped us speak with the ghost.
Quite possibly, but
Yeah,
the reason I'm saying this, is because there have been people that have been able to speak with the dead, like as part of religious training. So clerics and so on. Not like Griffola. Griffola is exceptional to the standard and the norm of Waterdeep. And I don't mean like she's above and beyond. I just mean she's very different.
Different.
You're from the Underdark. What do you want? But her abilities seem to be a little different from your usual religious stuff that you were brought up and trained with. But speaking with the dead does seem to be something that some religions will actually do. They actually take tithes for it in some places. But that just comes to mind as an idea of your religious past.
Wait, if Grifol could talk to the dead, why didn't you talk to the cousin when, she determined he was dead?
I was a little overwhelmed.
He was burning. It was a bit raw, right?
Stuff going on, people scattered, screaming, children being...
I went through his pockets and, got into trouble.
She did the important thing. She went through his pockets.
Yeah.
So you guys pretty much hear the watch finishing up out front, setting things straight as best they can. There's like these kind of like a construction thing put up around the main area with like some boards and stuff, trying to help, I don't know, lessen the ditch that is currently where the fireball went off, so that if carts or something like that go over it, it's not quite so bad of a drop or anything like that, or a ditch. But otherwise, that they kind of finish, and as they're finishing, you guys get a knock at the tavern door, and you start hearing hello.
Which door?
The side door. Yeah, over here.
Okay, because if you
I'll go
could dodge
answer.
3 doors.
I'm like answering through the window, looking out. Who is it?
It's Rainer.
Oh, it's open.
And he
I just yelled back in. It's just Rainer.
and the door opens and he goes, "Are you all right?
How did you get through the guard?
They just took down the barricades. I've been trying to get through for what seems like hours now. They're so slow." He says, "But I was supposed to come over here and help welcome you guys with the cake that Bonnie made." And he gestures to this like half destroyed cake on the on the counter. And
about that. They're kind of. You might want to have a seat. Vern, get him a chair before he passes out.
Bring the one along.
And he says, "Is everybody okay though? Are you all right, intact?"
Yeah, where is Smoke, by the way? I look around. We're all okay. I don't know where Smoke's at. He's probably killing or looting. Who knows?
So you're concerned more where Grifolo was than the one... okay.
Well, last time I talked to him, he was up in the tower, so I assume he might be up there just cleaning himself. Who knows?
Where are you, Smoke? I'll admit I kind of got carried away there. Smoke. So what are you up to at this point? You're welcome to come back in partway through if you want.
Oh no, I'm still interested in the bodies and the items that they're carrying, and if I can possibly sneak some more information out.
Okay. It would appear that they're loading the bodies up into carts. Let's see. Actually, they have details on this. That's not it. It's in this one. No, not that. Doggone it. It says in here what happened with the bodies, but I don't know per se. You basically see them start loading up the bodies and the belongings, and they start carting them away. You're welcome to tail them if you like.
Yeah.
Or not. You could do what you want, really. I mean, you could attack them. You could tell them how pretty they are.
I'll give him
No. I'll just follow him because I want to take a look at.
Sneak in the cart too.
Yeah, I'll try to sneak into the cart if I can Yeah, closer look.
All right, let's get this stealth check over with. Come on, then. Let's do this.
I'm a dead body.
Oh, that's pretty good. All right, hold on a second here. I gotta... That's the wrong one. I have so many of these notes things here. No. No, those are individual people. Ah, there we go. Okay, so I can roll with them. What is their passive perception? Yeah, okay. So you're pretty much able to get up in the cart, under the tarp. Whoop. It's got some torched bodies in here. This is great. What you want to know? What you want to do?
Well, I want to look at the guy with the snake tattoo and see if like they may have missed anything on them, and the ones that were in armor.
Okay, hold on a second here. That's still the wrong one. I think it's under this one. Crime scene. All right, so let's see. I don't think that there was too much there. They look like they've already been kind of bagged up in a way, but they didn't really bring body bags, just more or less a tarp to help lift them and a tarp to cover them with. But they've got like tarps for each body that they did. You do find the one that has the black winged snake tattooed on his... It's actually on his right forearm. I was mistaken. I'm sorry about that. And you do find Grifola's cousin, and you do notice that he also looks like he was treading through some poo water not long since. He's got pebbles on his eyes.
But they would have kept them there when they loaded him up.
Seem to still be there.
Okay.
Let's see if there's any other details on these things. You already got most of the details already about that stuff. Yeah, and you do find on the side the two short swords, the singed instruments, and that's all you pretty much find in there, short of the bodies themselves.
All right. So the armored guys, there's nothing distinct about them.
Just the fact that they're armored and had short swords, and one of them has that tattoo.
Right. And nothing special about the swords?
Nope. Usually people don't travel with weapons around the city, though.
All right.
Unless
I'll go ahead
it's
and take one of
concealed.
the swords and jump off the thing.
What's that?
I'll go ahead and take one of the swords and then jump off the cart, head back to Trolls.
Okay. So upon you guys saying, Vern saying, "Where is he?" You arrive at Troll Skull Manor. It's about the right timeline, so it works.
Hey guys.
I just like look at you. Why are you holding a sword and what is all over you?
Burnt people.
Goo.
Why? That you should probably go clean.
Okay.
So, hearing Raina's voice, I'm gonna come upstairs, kind of carefully staying away from the windows. And
Like you're hiding from immigration?
and I'm gonna ask Rainer if they'll bury my cousin. What will they do with my cousin?
Well, actually, you guys haven't told him anything. He just wanted to know if you were all okay, and so far the answer was yes. And then, where's Smoke?
Yeah.
So he says, cousin. What? You got a cousin? That was in... Wait, what? I didn't know you had relatives living here?
I said, had. I said, just the one as far as I know. But he's a casualty of this blast. And
You hear a blubbering in the kitchen.
And I'd like to know what will happen to his body now.
Likely they'll take him to the city of the dead to be buried. Usually they try to they'll ask public for identification of the people, and if not, then they usually will ask the dead themselves, so that they can be laid to rest with the appropriate identification. And then they usually have some kind of holy burial there.
Yeah, speaking of dead people, can you put in a word and send Matilda back over?
He says, Matilda?
Oh, forgot Bolo brought her. Never mind, you wouldn't know Matilda. Yeah, we need to send word to her.
Oh, still. That was strange. What happened anyway? I'm sorry for the loss.
We aren't quite sure, actually. We were out there coming back, or I don't even remember anymore, and then we were out here in the street, and then Grifola's like, look, it's my cousin, and we didn't know that at the time, and then he was running to her, and then explosion. Yeah, that mess out there, dead bodies. Yeah, we're not quite sure, but from what I could gather from, my great selective hearing, they don't know where the blast came from, but they're pretty sure that whatever it was, her cousin was running from possible captors. They were running after him, and the explosion came from somewhere, who knows, behind them, above them, but they didn't even know it happened, so they weren't the ones who did it.
So that's rare. Did you want to go? Were you able to identify your cousin for them so that they could?
Not yet. No, I'd like to go and do that.
Yeah, about that. We kind of made her stay low because people thought she was looting the dead bodies.
Oh.
You know how they feel about that a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
but it sounds like these City of the Dead people, though, could possibly clear my name. Because if they can talk to Dalakar, then he'll identify me as his family.
He says, wait. What? Who?
Does that name ring a bell to you?
Yes.
How do you know him?
It's a bit of a story. When the Lords of Waterdeep... go on.
We are sitting comfortably.
He says, when the Lords of Waterdeep ousted my father... Well, Dalakar, was this a gnome?
I gesture to all of me.
He says, but he wasn't a deep gnome. I suppose you have cousins among the surface?
That's a long story in itself. We can do that one later.
He says, fair enough. Well, when the lords ousted the Lords of Waterdeep, when they ousted my father, I thought his long dark shadow was finally gone for good. Truth is, I want nothing to do with him, but his spies hound me, as you're all very well aware. One of them, a gnome named Dalakar, had been watching me for months. Then, about 10 days ago, the spy was suddenly nowhere to be seen. My father didn't trust many people, but he trusted that gnome. I spoke to a few of Dalakar's friends. Apparently he was on a special mission to retrieve the Stone of Golor, I believe it was. I was afraid that the Zentarum and the Xanathar Guild were close to catching him. When he heard about my kidnapping, he wanted more information about the adventurers who had rescued me. I think Dalakar was planning to pay you to deliver the Stone of Golor to my father in Neverwinter.
What does it look like? Do you know?
It's strange. It's got 3 ridges on it of some sort. I've only ever seen a brief, really sketchy drawing in the past.
Is it big? Is it small? Is it...
Actually, hold on. Let me see if I can find that information out.
I'm just trying to ascertain if it could have been in the mix, like as one of these gemstones. I guess.
Right. Let's see. No, that doesn't help any. I will let you know when I figure it out. Oh, there it is. Click on that. And it fits in the palm of your hand. It says it's small.
But probably bigger than a gemstone.
Yes. I would imagine it's probably the size of he just kind of like makes a little motion in his hand and just kind of draws like he says it's very small, just like a trinket of sorts.
Just gonna point that. The main question is whose palm?
He says mine. It would probably Grifola would be able to grasp her fingers just round it. At least this is what I've had described to me. It's not like I've had it before.
Let me get this straight. So, your dad... Right, you were being watched by my cousin, but your dad also trusted my cousin?
Yes.
Eh?
My father and I have not seen eye to eye quite regularly.
Okay.
He was the previous Lord of Waterdeep, and there's a lot of politics going on about that, so that is strange that our lines meet in such a strange way. I will help you out as best I can, though. Dalakar's friends that I spoke of, I did try to follow up with them further, but it appears that they actually left Waterdeep. Potentially to go to Neverwinter, but I couldn't. The people I had tracking lost them, so...
I think I just, I should go to the City of the Dead, to be there for, identification at this point.
That sounds feasible. Though you did mention, and he looks over to Natea, that you're laying low from the City Watch because he's your cousin?
No,
I guess I'm not
somebody saw me checking his pockets and thought that I was stealing from his body.
Oh. And he says, then he kind of looks left and right a little bit, and he says, were you?
Was I stealing from my cousin?
Just curious if you came away with something. I mean, I'd be happy to try and smooth the waters if it is.
Yes, I did.
He says, all right, I'm sure it's some kind of personal item, but the watch is going to want to know about it if I'm to kind of help smooth things out a bit. It's best if you don't leave details out. They're very thorough. So if you're all right with it, I'll let them know that you were this and that you're of honorable folk, and so that they can take you seriously rather than just pushing your words to the side as it is. Basically, I will back you.
Yes.
All the bodies have flying snake tattoo.
He says,
Now telling us this?
Just gotta look at Spoke.
He says,
Why are
more
you carrying a sword?
It was a sword from one of the people that was chasing her cousin.
Is there anything special about the sword?
It pokes stuff.
It's a bigger piece of candy.
I'll show it to what's his face. Go. I don't know. Sword. Right?
Says, well, you seem to have a lot of information. Usually the watch is pretty tight-lipped about things that they find. Did you go door to door yourselves and start asking?
Sure.
Okay.
Or I could have climbed on the cart of the dead bodies and took a look.
No, that's a bit grim. I was more talking about all the information that you gathered about the explosion.
What's grim is someone putting rocks on corpses. Man, that is just weird. I knocked them off.
Just hit smoke.
Gravola just kind of frowns at you, deep furrow brow.
And
if you're gonna, sky funeral, man, you don't want to hurt the animal.
So Rainer says,
different cultures, different methods.
Did you want me to approach this as soon as possible? Or did you want me to leave things to it? Because if I do, they'll probably want to interview you.
Oh my god. Can I just go to the City of the Dead?
And then I will put it off. I'll let them know first thing in the morning. How's that?
That sounds good.
Right. I guess you're all okay here. This is such straining news. Did you need any further help? I suppose you probably aren't familiar with where they might be taking him, so I could escort you to the general area.
That would be nice. I don't suppose you have a carriage with some of those handy curtains, do you?
They didn't let carriages come through the barricade, but I've got one that brought me here, waiting just outside those boundaries, yes.
I thought they'd opened the barricade.
They had, but they were only just clearing them through, and I kind of rushed up here as quickly as I could.
I appreciate your concern.
Okay. You can hide underneath his cloak.
Let's do it.
Says, all right, well, you're all welcome to come along. It's quite the learning experience if you so desire.
Yeah, let's talk to dead people. And you don't recognize this sword, do you? Like city guard or anything?
You're asking Rainer?
Yeah.
He says, looks positively plain to me.
Excellent.
Weapon of a sellsword. Wouldn't doubt that it's Zentarum. Anyway, shall we head to my carriage?
Yep. Gravola is stuffing a slightly creepy looking book into her backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And then she puts backpack on and let's go.
Okay. As you guys are leaving, I need everybody to make a perception check.
Oh, for flap's sake.
Your favorite check. The checkiest check.
Oh, nice. I'm good.
Robin sees nothing. It's
Glad
opposite
somebody
day.
saw something.
All right. So, you all notice that what was it? What is it? Vincent Trench, the guy, the private eye, is outside, and he is talking to people, all sorts of people, and all of the people that you've seen of some of the shops and stuff are outside. They're all kind of like conversing and kind of gossiping, and a couple people look like they're a bit shaken and so on as you're walking by. And as Rainer walks by, most of the people actually recognize him, and he just kind of like does the little, head tilt, while most of them end up doing some kind of like large bow or a curtsy or something like that. And he seems to walk with a purpose, trying not to attract attention, but it doesn't seem to really be helping. But you're all able to get to the cart, and the carriage starts taking you and heads on down to, let's actually take you to the map. No, I don't want to change the name. I just want to go to the map. We're going to the Gary map. Going to the City of the Dead.
Bring out your dad.
Which is down south. Down south. So you guys head on down there. I see that, yay, he's there. Yep, pretty much. You come through Malsimber's Way, I guess it is. Actually, no. Let's say that you come down a Serdun Street. Yeah, that's perfect. And you then come down Zendel Street. Stop moving around. You're still here.
You just said not that road, but the other one, didn't you?
Yes, this street up here.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah. So you guys come down to the City of the Dead, and he pretty much says, we're going to have the carriage wait for us here. It's often disrespectful unless you're some kind of official vehicle entering this area, so it's best to just leave these on the outskirts. Or if you're disabled, which obviously we are not. So, shall we proceed? And he looks down at Grifola. Will you be alright out in the open?
I think so. I don't think there are any wanted posters up for me yet.
I doubt that you're going to be wanted. But shall we? And
Yes.
he starts leading the way. Pretty much he takes you through, and he says, now, depending upon the religion that they might have, they might go to different areas. But if there's a general morgue, for lack of a better term, just right down here in the middle. So at least that's the one that I'm going to call it, right there, that you guys are heading to. And he says that inside is pretty much where it happens. Usually they'll have a spell cast upon them to preserve the dead, and then they will keep them in there for up to a 10-day until they are either identified, belongings returned, and unless there's an investigation ongoing, in which case they may stay for some time. But then they may also cast the identification or questionable spells, as it is, at the time. So let's just go on in, shall we? And he looks a little bit uncomfortable. Obviously, this isn't his forte, but he's trying to explain as much as he can. And walks in and says, yes, there was several victims in Trollskull Alley earlier today, and we're here to help identify some of the corpses. And says, oh yes, here, just fill out this form, have a seat there, blah blah blah. You get through the usual paperwork stuff, and then it says we'll have you just go on through there, and someone will come and get you shortly. And there's actually a very comfortable waiting room of sorts. I mean, everything is kind of a little bit incensey in here. It's a bit extra quiet. The stone walls, for some reason, seem like they're all carpeted with how quiet it is in here. There's no echo. Really weird. But then someone comes in shortly and says, yes, I understand that you're here to help identify some of those that have passed. We only have 3 of which who have not been identified at this time. And if you come with me, and he apparently it looks like he recognizes who Raynor is, perhaps. He thinks he does, but you're not sure. And he escorts you all into this kind of this viewing room. And he says the 3 that we have currently not identified is a gnome, a male gnome, as well as 2 male humans. Are you relation or friends of either of those races?
Are the 2 male humans the ones with the tattoos, or the ones that were in?
Says so you are potentially familiar with some of those people as well. All right, then I will have all 3.
Was that an in-game question, or were you just asking?
No, I was asking DM.
Oh, sorry. Say that again.
I already paid it. The 2 humans that haven't been identified are the ones with the tattoo, or the ones that are in the armor?
He didn't state. He just
so we
said
can't
two male
see
humans.
the bodies yet.
Right.
They're like
right.
in a different room or something.
Yeah, he's just trying to figure out which ones to bring out. If he doesn't need to bring out all three, he's not going to. But
yeah, bring them all out. Let's look at all of them.
Right. Okay. He says, very well then. And then he has a couple of attendees help him. They've got wheeled carts with the bodies laid out. They've got pretty much their 3 corpses are brought in. They're totally covered with a cloth. He says, no, they currently have the lower section covered for, keeping people's view averted of sorts, but otherwise. And he goes to lift the first one, which is a male human, and he goes to lift the first one back. He just brings it down past the shoulder, and it's a balding man, maybe in his 40s. He looks like he's a white guy. He's got a couple scars across here and here. Looks like he's got a scar here, and they kind of cleaned up a good section of one side of his face. It looks like there's some kind of poultice or something like that was put against it just to stop what was going on there, but it looked like it got really singed on one side of the face, as well as most of the way down the shoulder.
Would I recognize him from the cart?
He looks like he's one of the dudes in leather.
Okay. I'd be like, hey, that's one of the guys that was chasing your cousin.
I'm going to ask the employee if it's okay if or I asked them, do you typically I understand that you have the ability to speak with them?
He says, yes, we usually do not perform that unless there's issue in identifying them, and that's at the end of the 10-day. Rayner actually at this point says, we would ask that be perhaps sped up. And he actually kind of produces a couple of dragons. And the guy looks at the dragons and says, we usually don't do that for the 10-day. And Rayner kind of looks over at the rest of the group like, this was supposed to work. And then he kind of goes, oh, and he looks, and it looks like he's surprised that he had 2 dragons. He pulls out 2 suns. The guy says, but for you, of course, we can perform this without any kind of problem, sir. And he takes the 2 suns, puts them in his pocket, and says, so did you want to talk to this man?
Well, since he was after her relative, I guess we need to figure out who paid him, why he was chasing them. So, yeah, let's talk.
And he says, all right, then. I will send for the clerics to cast the spell and bestow upon which party member here would like to ask the question. You're allowed to ask 1 question. Usually it is what their name is.
Well, when you found out who paid him and why he was chasing her cousin, we need more than 1.
He says, well, the abilities that they have here usually only are used for that. Anything beyond that is seen as not looked upon well. And he looks really uncomfortable all of a sudden.
A whole bunch of people.
He says, right, and that's not for me to deal with. I'm merely just the caretaker.
If we ask this guy 1 question, we can ask or I've got a way that we can ask them a question in addition to whatever the clerics here can do, but we can only do this like for 1 question.
And the guy actually kind of he kind of like pulls one of the doors, or pulls the door a little bit closed, and says, the only reason that you're able to ask a question is because in a 10-day is the soonest the questions can be asked again, and at that time they need to be asked their names if they haven't been identified.
Yep. I say, can you give us just one moment?
And he just bows his head and takes a few steps back like some practiced mortician at a funeral.
So, and I lean in really close to the rest of the party and I say, I can ask one person one question today. And I'm saying this like really low so that he, can't hear. So if we have the clerics ask each, like my cousin, we can ask him one question. We can ask this guy here, and I'm motioning to the corpse. We can ask this guy one question. Say, if they can do that, then I can add one to whatever is most useful.
Well, add one to your cousin so we can get some more information out of him.
Okay. It's probably easiest to do anyway.
All right. So, excuse me. The one when the guy like took a step back, he said he would excuse himself, and he actually left the room for a moment while you guys were discussing stuff. He came back in and said, "It'll just be a few minutes before the cleric arrives." Excuse me. And upon waiting a few more moments, and I don't know if you guys wanted to do anything in that time. I mean, more or less, he said, "Did you want to take a look at the other two at this time?"
Yes.
And he pulls back the cloth covering of the other human, and it's the guy that has the tattoo on the arm. And he seems like he caught most of it on the front. His face is mostly burnt, but his arm has that tattoo. Now, the other guy might have had a tattoo, but you couldn't tell because that same arm was pretty much all just burnt. He could have even had one on his neck, but one side of his neck was all burnt. So this guy is the other of the two that was wearing leather armor.
I show Rainer the tattoo. It's like, see? Flying snake.
Says, the black market. And then the third one comes out and pulls it back, and it's Delacar. He pulls the cloth back, and you see Delacar there, and he doesn't have the pebbles on his eyes anymore.
And I kind of, when he pulls the cloth back, I look up at Rainer to see if Rainer has any, like, does he recognize him? Is he just purposefully not looking?
No, he's looking. He seems to be looking more at you than anything, but are you like looking at him with question in your face?
Yeah.
Then he says, "That is the same, yes."
Okay. Yeah.
He wasn't sure if he should say the name or not.
I just kind of nod.
And the guy says, "Can you identify any of the corpses?" Or actually, he would probably say of these lost souls or something like that.
I say, yes, this one is my cousin.
Oh, you have a name for him then?
Yes, I do. His name's Delacar.
Delacar. And he takes down what information you're willing to give about this person, and anything that you might be able to help with, which probably is just the name, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else he would want, but
right. And with that, Rainer would try to help out a little bit, but that's about it. He says, "Well, at least we have a name for him." I'm sure that they'll probably try and see if he's got any other kin, but I guess since there is you and you're available, then that's a start. And then at that time, one of the aides walks in and kind of whispers something, and the guy says, "Ah, the cleric's here." And he says, "I'll just leave you with him." He walks out, and cleric comes in, and it actually looks very familiar. It's one and the same guy that might have been seen at a recent visit to, what was it, St. Cuthbert's, I think, something like that, shrine. There's a certain guy there, looks a bit uncouth. He's like, "Oh, you've got friends this time." And he says, "Well, I understand somebody needs some talking to." And he says, "Who wants to do the talking? Because what I can do here is give one question for each corpse to one person each." And he seems very straightforward and gruff about the whole thing, but he seems just down to business. And he says, "So who's talking to this one?" And he points to the guy with the scars on his face. Don't y'all talk at once now.
I guess I'll talk to that one.
All right, who's talking to this one? And he points to the guy with the tattoo on his arm.
I guess I'll talk to that one.
And he said, "And who's talking to this one?" And he points to Delikar.
I put my hand up.
He says, "All right, well then, shall we start with this guy here?" And he points over to the human. And I think at this point is a good spot that we can stop. This will give you guys a chance to think up some questions. Give me some time to think up some answers.
But you don't know what the questions are.
Yeah, I don't.
What would be the worst questions?
It might behoove you all to get those questions to me before next episode.
No, it's much more fun to...
For me to just make it up on the spot. Yeah. So...
My plan, you could just kind of toss it out there.
Well, thank you guys again for another episode of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
Okay.
And we'll see everybody again next time. So, thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Like,